After graduating as a mechanical engineer in Chicago, Leo Morans began a career in electric refrigeration. It was during this time, when he was selling ice cream freezers, that he came up with his own version of a soft-serve pump. Meanwhile, in 1950, he partnered with Harry Axine, who had once worked for the Dairy Queen chain, and they set off selling their idea, which they called Tastee-Freez, to ice cream entrepreneurs around the region. The inventor and the businessman, respectively, created what was at the time a revolutionary soft-serve ice cream pump and freezer. This new ice cream technology was better than anything on the market and allowed for ice cream shops to offer faster service and a better product. Because quick service chains were booming in the 1950s and those restaurants were looking for ways to make and serve food quickly, these new freezer pumps were wildly successful. Instead of simply selling their Tastee-Freez machine, Morans and Axine used it as a way to get into the restaurant business more directly. Ice cream stands were given permission to use the Tastee-Freez name in exchange for the shops paying rent on the ice cream pumps. The number of Tastee-Freez franchises grew rapidly, from 315 in 1952 to almost 1,800 locations across the United States in 1957. The delicious Tastee-Freez soft serve might look like ice cream, but it isn't ice cream at all. Soft serve does not contain eggs and has more air mixed into it, making it softer. Ice cream or not, there is no doubt that soft serve is delicious, and Tastee-Freez was a pioneer in introducing it to a large fan base. Soft serve was something new and exciting for consumers in the 1950s, and the rapid growth of the company proved they had both a great product and an appetizing business plan. Tastee-Freez shops range from simple stands to restaurants with seating. These locations were independently franchised, and eventually, Morans and Axine made money from renting out the revolutionary pumps as well. By the 1960s, Tastee-Freez was looking to expand overseas. They set their sights on England and attempted to employ a mobile version, much like an ice cream truck in the United States. By 1963, the company had lost a lot of money on the venture, and it led them to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But this wasn't the end of the road for Tastee-Freez. The assistant to Leo Morans, a man named Herbert Molnar, bought the chain out of bankruptcy a year later. He came up with a plan to streamline the business by withdrawing from England and closing older stores in smaller towns. He also saw the need to offer more fast food type fare, which meant that hot dogs and hamburgers were now on the menu. During the 1980s, Tastee-Freez became an attractive acquisition. So in 1982, the chain was purchased by the parent company of the Dog and Suds chain of hot dog restaurants. By 1992, the number of Tastee-Freez shops was down to 340. Although it was a chain in decline, the Tastee-Freez name had become an important part of Americana. Not only was it mentioned in John Cougar Mellencamp's 1982 song, Jack and Diane, but it was a staple of your childhood. In 2003, the chain was acquired by another company. This time, the Gallardi Group purchased it, which they had been working with already, providing soft-serve ice cream to their Wiener Schnitzel hot dog restaurants. The iconic soft-serve chain is still around today, but with just a handful of standalone locations still remaining. Alaska, Florida, Illinois, and North Dakota each have one location still open. You can also find Tastee-Freez soft serve still being served at Wiener Schnitzel locations across the country. There's no doubt that Tastee-Freez is a flavor of another time, especially in the minds of those who remember it from their childhood. Tastee-Freez created a legacy in a busy fast food era that is still looked upon with fondness. If you cherish the sweet treats of Tastee-Freez growing up, let me know in the comments some of your best memories. As always, thank you so much for watching.